Turn my passion into income, yeah, I love what I do. Taught them how to be an ass, don't let them play with you, boo. Don't gotta speak on it too much, let my work it do the talking. Make it more in my sleep than I do when I clock and ain't paid them no money.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl Gina, aka your favorite hype girl. Welcome back to another episode on my podcast, What's the Hype? Don't be afraid to jump. Now, in this episode, I do want to share my experience of my hardship in my career in the beginning, being broke, maxing out my credit cards, unexpected responsibilities, how I overcame it with my financial literacy workbook and planner, and share a few books that helped me financially and so much more. Let's get into it and let's be for real. In the beginning of my career as an x-ray tech, I was making roughly $16. Okay, roughly. Now, in the beginning of my career, majority of x-ray techs that I know were at least getting paid $18, even $20 an hour. But my goal was to jump into the hospitals and, start from there. And being that I had a good rep with one of my clinical coordinators, and she told me to make sure I go back to this certain hospital because it was asking for me, and they really liked me. So I'm like, oh, all right. So I had so much high expectations for myself because I was working really hard. I was doing all the work. I was taking initiative. I wasn't, afraid to get in and make a mistake and learn from the techs that were there for much work, like many, many years there. So I had a good feeling that, I would just fit right on in, but that wasn't the case. So in the beginning, my first job was like an x-ray tech in an MA. I was at a urgent care doing more MA work than x-ray, which was very much ghetto for me, but I thugged it out. I did what I had to do. I gained more experience. I gained experience drawing blood, and how to find veins, which helped me later on in my career when I started to learn how to do IVs. So, in the beginning of my career, I faced a lot of hardship financially because while I was in school, my dad was diagnosed with dementia. So that was at the beginning stages where, he was still talking, walking, doing stuff for himself, but it was getting very noticeable. Like, you were forgetting where you live, and you're forgetting where you put your stuff, or you forget the route to get from your home to your work. Like, that's pretty serious. And over time, my dad couldn't work anymore. So I had to take responsibility of the utilities, like the water bill, the light bill, the gas bill, the internet bill. And that was a lot for me. And at the time, I wasn't making that much to, support or pay off for bills. So that meant I had to either get a better job that pays more or a second job. So at that time, I was already comfortable at my job, my first job. I tried to get a second job, and that didn't go well with my manager. She didn't like that, so I ended up leaving because she gave me an ultimatum. And even when I did what was best for me, it still bit me in my butt because she took $500 from my paycheck. And that's a story. If you didn't know, I explained it in my podcast. So something else of the unexpected responsibilities that I had to face was being a caregiver. And me taking care of my own parent was kind of weird to me because I was always being taken care of. Someone always looked after me and made sure I was doing what I'm supposed to do and setting up my appointments and taking me to the doctor. That was my dad's job. So now the roles has basically reversed. I'm taking my dad to all his doctor's appointments. I'm the one who controlling his medication when he's supposed to take it. I'm the one that's feeding him, making sure he's clothed, and make sure he takes a shower, make sure he eats, make sure he behaves himself, make sure he's good. I became literally a parent, and I'm like, well, this is weird. I mean, this is not what I signed up for, but end up taking up on that role because that was my dad, and he did everything in his will to make sure I had a good education. I had everything I needed for school. I never went without. Like my dad always went above and beyond for me. So it was not weird, but it came natural for me to be like, all right, let me take over. Let me take care of you. This is how things are gonna, go accordingly. I mean, I didn't have no manual. There's no book out there to how to become the best caregiver. I mean, if there was, I wish somebody would have gave it to me to help me out and teach me the things I needed to know in order to be a great caregiver. But I did the best I can. So, I mean, at my age, I could have moved out. I could have got my own place. I could have got my own apartment. I could have lived my life. I could have moved. I could have said, you know what, this is too much for me. But at the same time, I had to do what I felt that was right. And I stayed living with my parents and taking care of my dad during the most hardest time of their lives. Which really took a toll on not only me, but especially my mom and my siblings and our family. So, but that still pushed me to like wanting more for myself. And especially after what I went through in my first job, that really pushed me like, I want to create a business where I don't have to rely on a 9-to-5. And I don't have to deal with people playing with my money. That's what really kicked off, me wanting a business. It's like, I had the idea in my mind. I had little sketches that I would do at work when it was downtime, when we had literally nothing to do. I was always thinking about ways of, being different in my career. But when I quit and when that happened to me, like, I was like, oh no, I really need to get this ball and roll. Which led me to learn about business credit. So with business credit, you have to have a decent credit score. I knew that I was eligible for business credit once I started getting mail. Now, before that, I was working on my credit. I was paying off. I didn't have much debt at the time, but I didn't have much credit history. So I started getting secured credit cards, starting off little by little, paying them off on time, make sure I managed my finances, make sure my debt to income ratio was good. And my credit score was pretty decent. Yeah, I took my credit score from like the low 500s to like 700s, like literally all by myself with help. I did read some books. Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover. This is one of the books I read, and I went through it and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I could do this, I could do that. And another book that helped me out was this book right here. This is called A Crash Course in Budgeting 101. And I do have another book like this. It's called A Crash Course for Debt 101. It teaches you everything about saving and, how to manage your debt and like steps you could do, tips you could do, how to pay it off and stuff like that. So that really helped me figure out like, okay, like, I need to make sure I keep track of my credit score, my credit utilization, my net worth, and how to measure my progress and all that good stuff. So I definitely set up a link down below, and I'll attach all the books that I came across. Alright, some things I wanted to talk about on my podcast today is like what are some things that that keep us from thriving, why we tend to put our dreams on hold, pause, or completely stop. For me, I done put, as you see in my background, that's like one of my vision board for my one day if I want to have a fashion show for my scrub line. I put my scrub line on hold so many times in the past years because of my dad's condition. Like whenever I started working on it, anything when it came down to my dad, like anytime there was some issues or stuff that came up, like I would always put my plans on hold. And now I'm in a space right now where I've stopped doing that, being that I don't have that huge responsibility on my back anymore. One of the biggest obstacles I faced was like lack of motivation. I mean, when he was here, he was one of my biggest motivation to keep going and, you know, thriving and trying to get my business off the ground. But at the same time, sometimes I fell through with depression, like, you know, facing reality, you know, see my dad digress and, you know, not be himself no more, really put a toll on me. Some ways I created my own passive income was, one was this book. Two, I remember I started my own side hustles on Fiverr.com. I got the idea after I tried to create my first book, and I saw the people doing like different side hustles on. I'm like, wow, I could do this. So I started off. I remember I created my first jingle for my book, and I did a video of it. I posted that. I listed that, and then somebody offered me, I think it was like $300 to do a jingle for them in a video, and I did it. And another person, he paid me like maybe like $50 for a jingle or $75. I don't remember how much it was, but you know, I was paid. And I remember I was listing up. I did a couple essays for some people in college. I did PowerPoints. I did presentations. Excuse me. I did presentations and stuff like that as a side hustle. And I remember when I first came out with my book, a lot of people didn't want to do the work for themselves. They wanted me to do all the work. So I decided to become a credit consultant. Right? But I didn't have the right clientele at the moment. So I put that on the back burner because I was like, I'm not really getting anybody, you know. And it's not like a overnight boost in credit score that, you know, you can help people do. No, it takes time. And that's what most people don't realize when it comes to their credit. Another thing I wanted to talk about is like the fear and the doubt that some of us may face when it comes to stepping out of our comfort zone in order to be who we are and fulfill our purpose in life. And for me, it's getting behind a camera, speaking into a camera like this and speaking out to God knows whoever's listening. For me, it was, you know, doubt, a lot of doubt. A lot of doubt plays into my life because I doubt myself a lot. Fear of not being good enough, not succeeding. But some ways I try to overcome it is shutting those down with gratitude. Being motivated by others who be like, hey, I watched your podcast the other time, it was really good. You know, or I have people share my content, that keeps me motivated. But what really keeps me grounded is consistent prayer. And ever since I've been writing every time I journal, every time I do one of those Bible study worksheets, you know, that keeps me motivated to keep on going and going and going. Because sometimes I will stop. I'll start a project and I'll stop. I'll start a project and I'll stop. There's so many content I have on my phone that I haven't even posted because I'll just start something and stop. But this time around, with faith, with consistency, with discipline, I will definitely be on top of things. Definitely put out more content for you guys. So let's be for real for a moment. I know sometimes in life, we get to a point where everything is going well, and then you hit that roadblock, and it feels like life is hitting you, like left, right, left, like this problem come in, this problem come in, this problem's coming to you. You're like, well, this is a little bit too much. And we all been there. I've been there many of times. I'd been there when I was trying to pass my x-ray boards. My dad was sick. He's in the hospital. I'm having relationship issues. Again with my CT boards when I was trying to pass that. Problems, complications with my dad. My job acted funny. And it was just a lot. But it comes to a point where you find yourself at a crossline where you can continue pushing forward, and just by what you're going through, you can always, persevere and really thug it out. Whatever you're going for, is it worth it? Is it worth that stress? Is it worth that time and energy and redoing it over. For example, with my book, how many times I done redid my book like 30 different times. I done uploaded this book to see if it was going to be able to print on demand so many times. It's just about persistence and just faith that this book is gonna help change lives. Like, it helped change my life, and I know it helped change a lot of lives out there that want to manage their finance, that want to get their credit right, that want to achieve their goals, that want people who want to get closer to God and don't know how. It's all about choices, and you could either settle where you are right now and still dealing with the same BS and still sitting in that space where you're uncomfortable, and it's always that feeling when you feel uncomfortable. It's like, you know what, I can't take this. Something has to give. Something has to give. Somebody has to go. I have to go. Something has to change. So when you come to that point of life, and then when you come to that point in that stage of life where you feel like you're stuck, you don't know what to do, you hit a plateau. For me, I'll pray about the situation. I write out to God, even if you don't even have this book yet, you can always journal out your thoughts. Always seek therapy. Therapy is very beneficial. I go to therapy, and it has done wonders for me. It has helped me tremendously over the years and helped me manage a lot what I've been facing, especially with my dad. Just all those, and any type of way where you can sit down and reflect, like, what really matters. Like, if I keep going down this path where working towards my goal rather than sitting back and letting life hit me all at once and letting things that I can't control get the best of me, what is that going to do for me? So back in 2020, I decided to come up with a financial literacy workbook and planner. This is my first model. Y'all see it's real thick. Real. Actually, let me show y'all. No, this was the first one. This was the first model. Okay, this was like my first workbook that I did like my photo shoot and video shoot with. But this was the main book. It didn't come in time when I had to do my photo shoot and video shoot, but this was like a yearly planner. Compared to this looked like a monthly planner. So this was my first workbook and planner. It really helped me out. Like, literally, like, I've really been in this book like 3rd of 2020. I don't know if y'all can see. I was getting paid this much. It's probably one of my first paychecks or whatever. And I wrote down my bills, like my FPL, gas, self-care, groceries, debt. You know, this page is pretty old. It literally came out. I had my own little shopping list that I used to do. Ooh, there we go. I used to budget. That used to be my little shopping list. And I used to have my own little calendar. I literally, like, so the first time I had this book, like, I created, like, a rough draft, and I paid somebody to create this book for me, right? On Fiverr, I have my little calendar. You see my little graphic, my little cartoon character of me, and I had a quote. It's like, when you see God working in your favor and blessings coming through right on time. Yes, child, that was me. I thought this was so cute. I thought this was so awesome because this is my first book, and I was so proud of myself. And every week I try to list out all my bills for the month. You feel me? List out all my bills, making sure I made sure all my bills are paid early. Not even on time, early, okay? Because when I first started taking over the bills, I was late. There were times where the water cut off, the lights cut off, because, you know, it's not like it became too much at one point. Like, I was paying little by little. Sometimes I'll pay half the bill, and the next bill comes, and it was even more. So I was like, whoa, this is a lot. So I learned how to make sure I pay the whole bill early, make sure I separated what needed to be paid in the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. And slowly but surely, like, as I was getting more money and advancing in my career, you know, I got much better at budgeting, because at one point, you know, I was making a little bit more money, and then I felt like I had more expenses. So it wasn't until where I started, like, using each one of these pages, like each worksheets, to help me, you know, break down my debt and make sure I, you know, paid what was due. Not just the minimum, but make sure I paid a little bit above the minimum. You know, I got back right on track. And over, like, the month, I wrote down everything I wanted to get done in the month, how I was going to get it done. I tracked down my credit score, what I need to improve on. And then throughout the week, I write down everything that I had to do. Like, every day, like, back in 2020, edit patient care vlog, meal prep for the week, create content. I was doing ad campaigns. And at the end, I'll do like a weekly reflection. So yeah, those are a couple of the worksheets that I had, and I wanted to redo it this year. And I remember I set it up for my birthday, right? I wanted to launch my new financial literacy workbook and planner for my birthday, but things didn't go as planned. This year, I've gotten so much closer to God. Some of you may not know, I did get baptized this year, so I'm slowly but surely changing my old ways. I wanted a deeper and closer relationship to God and really have Him by my side, because after my dad's passing, I was really in a dark space. I felt like I was going to work, not doing much. It's just living, just waking up. I felt like a robot. So with my new financial literacy workbook and planner, me and God created this book, okay? And I done redid this book like at least 1,000 times. Literally printed out two the first time because I was so excited. And as I was going through the books, I'm like, wait a minute, this don't look right. This don't look right. I'm like, oh shit. So, excuse my language, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is not right. And as I was using the books, some of the worksheets, I had to redo them because, like, for example, I redid one of the bill payment worksheets where I list all my bills for the month. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have enough room for the end of the month. And I know people out there probably got more bills than me, and they're not going to have any more room. So I had to switch up and redo a few of these books. Now, mind you, I did all the designs in this book. I took the worksheets from my first book and upgraded them and designed it all on my own with the help of Canva. So I wanted to show you guys my first page. This page, I don't know if you can see it. It's called Dream Big, okay? And on the first page it says, write the vision down and make it plain. He may run who reads it. And this is verse Habakkuk 2:2. Most verse that really stuck out to me when I got back reading in the Bible, and I was heard it throughout my life. This is a you got this page where you list out what do you need to get done for the month, how do you plan on getting your goals done, how's your credit looking this month, and what you need to improve on. This is going to be the monthly calendar. Okay, see? And at the bottom I wrote down top priorities for the month. So you guys need to write down top priorities that you need to handle. Now, this page is get your credit right. Okay, this page will definitely help you what to focus on when you go over your credit report, which is list all your credit scores for each bureau, balance and credit utilization, list all your negative items that's hurting your score, list all items that are in collections, list all inquiries on your credit report, right? And I will go deeper into on another vlog or podcast how to, understand and fix your credit. This is my weekly planner. Okay, so I write goals for the week, write down your top goals, and then you list out everything you need to get done every day. And then weekly reflection. It says, remember to pray over everything. Pay attention to your imagination because that is what God has in store for you to go after. And at the bottom I have my little reflection here. It says, did you accomplish everything you need to get done? What obstacles were holding you back? What are some things that you could have done better? And then at the end I wrote, remember, just because it didn't get done doesn't mean it won't get done. You've done your best this week. Keep pushing for greatness. So basically the same thing I had in my first book. Hold on. Like, see, this is what I paid somebody to do, right? So, and then this is what I created. See, similar, a little similar, but a little razzle dazzle. Something new I created, which I'm very proud that I made, is this worksheet. It's called Whoa, and it's called Quality Time with God. And these acronyms, as you can see, each stands for something. So this page is, in the midst of finding your purpose in life, don't forget to spend some quality time with God to help you navigate in life. When you stop and sit with Him and read the Word, use this worksheet as a way to connect with Him every day. Life can get tough sometimes, but with Him, all things are possible. This page was inspired by this thing I saw online. It was, I forgot, I think it was like soap or something. Yeah, it was like SOAP, whatever. But I decided to change it up and put it into my own words. Each acronym is like, W stands for write down the scripture that relates to you. O is write down what stood out to you from the scripture you chose. A is write down how you can apply this principle in your life. And H, have a one-on-one with God and write down a prayer of your vision for your purpose in life related to the scripture, and keep in mind of Habakkuk 2:2. So I really been getting into the Word. Okay, I use this page almost every single day. Trying to get everything planned out for my final planner, but I basically this is really helping me, especially when I need some quality time, some self-care time for myself. This has really helped me a lot. I've been in my Bible reading it lately. See all these little tabs, all these little sticky notes. I usually just go through and like pick a scripture that relates to me, and I just follow the acronyms, you know, what stood out. I write down the scripture that relates to me. I write out what stood out to me. I write out how I can apply this scripture, scripture principle in my life. And I have a one-on-one with God. Like, I write down a prayer to God stating that, you know, whatever scripture I chose and how I can apply it to my life. And I pray that He give me the guidance and He gives me the tools and resources I need in order to be successful. So this is one of the pages I have rewritten 1,000 times. This is the Can You Pay My Bills worksheet. So I did 2 columns here, one for the beginning of the month and one for the end of the month. So you write down all your bills, their due dates, and how much it is for the month. And I wrote down in the bottom. Remember, even if you're behind, you can push through and be on top again. And if you've been handling your bills on time, keep it up. You got this. So I always write a little encouraging message to my customers, because, you know, throughout my journey trying to, you know, manage my finances, I always like to hear some type of encouragement to keep me going. I always listen to motivational audios or motivational videos to keep me going throughout the day, which I still do as well. This is a Pay It Down worksheet, where this worksheet I created the boxes where each box you list out your creditor, your account number, the interest rate, the starting balance, and the due date. And I broke it down, each payment, from 2 payments, 4 payments, 8 payments, 16 payments, etc. This worksheet will definitely help you pay off your student loans, your mortgage, car note, credit cards, or any liability that's taken away from your monthly income. So I have 4 of these worksheets, you know, because, you know, I don't know about y'all, but I was finding some time, like, you know what, maybe I need to make a few pages for people who are, you know, that has a lot of debt. And I created this worksheet. It says put your money where it matters. Alright, so I created 4 pages of these. Basically, for anyone who gets paid every week or every 2 weeks, you have enough pages for the month. So, in this column, you write down your income. Like, say if you have 2 jobs, you write the income you get from your first job and the income you get from your second job. For me, I always had 1 or 2 jobs ever since I started working at the age of 16. So I write down both of my income. I write down my living expenses. I wanted to add on tithes, but I don't know how many people are into tithing, so I always put my tithing under living expenses, because that's one of the first things I pay once I get paid. Is I always pay 10% of whatever I get paid. Nothing more, nothing less, 10%. I give back to my church that does amazing things. Not only that, I gave to not only my home church, I've given to other churches too. For example, Transformation Church. I donated 10% of my income to them for like over a year. I was watching one of their sermons and it broke down, you know, what tithing meant and what the meaning behind it. And it made sense to me. Like, God has blessed me with a career, and, you know, giving back to the Lord 10% is not much. To be honest, not much. It may be a lot to some people, but for me, I know that He will always provide for me. So, me giving 10% versus like the 90% He's giving me, it's not much. It is, you know, for the Lord, I can manage 10%. So, I write down my living expenses, like my utility bills, like if I have a water or light bill, my transportation expenses, how much I spend in gas, if I need to do an oil change, which I really don't have to worry about, but any transportation expenses, car insurance, Anything transportation related, I'll put it down here. Now, I put in the self-care expense because I do like to treat myself self-care. Food expense, healthcare insurance expense, child care expense, just in case somebody has a child and you know you gotta list out their day kid. Pet care expenses, and all fats expenses, his doctor visits, his monthly food supply. So I write down in the pet care expenses for those who may have pets. Also added a debt repayment plan. So whatever debt you had wrote down on these page, you'll list them down on this page, so that way you know which debt you're paying for that pay period. And I also wrote down the savings / investment at the way bottom. Those who want to save money, you know, you'll put down how much you want to save for that pay period. The next page is watch your coins and be accountable. Give a little zoom in. See the bags. Bags of money. So this worksheet I use to make sure I'm not overspending. If I'm spending way above my means, this worksheet would definitely get me back on track to make me realize like, oh wow, I'm spending a lot. Let me just cut down my expenses. So basically I'll list down all my incomes. You can write down how much you get, whether it's from a job, your side hustles, stocks, dividends, social security, child support, whatever the case may be. You write down the amount. You write down the fixed expenses, like things that never change. Like for example, my car insurance is always the same every month. My phone bill is always the same every month. Some of my subscriptions are the same every month. So I write down my fixed expenses because I know that it will never ever change. My flexible expenses is things that I could take that changes every month, like the FPL bill always changes. Okay, my credit cards always can fluctuate. My membership that I sometimes use, you know, I can either, if I see myself spending a little bit too much that month, I'll cut back on one of my flexible expenses that I can easily manipulate or change or get rid of, or whatever the case may be. And then I tally up the total income, the total monthly income, minus the total monthly expenses, and whatever the difference is, the difference will let me know if I'm spending over my budget. I'll be in the negatives. And if I have a couple $100 left over, I will think about what's my next best plan, whether I want to pay off debt or invest in a dividend or a stock or whatever the case may be. This page is called Don't Be Too Risky. Now, this page I created because before I wanted to apply for like a credit card, I wanted to see where I stand with my creditors. So I listed out my list of income, how much I make, the list of debt I have, how much I owe, and then I'll take my monthly debt and I divide it by my monthly income, and then I get a debt to income ratio, which give me a percentage. Now that percentage will either have me fall into this bracket here, less than 10%, I'm great, 10 to 20, I'm good, 20 to 35, I'm questionable, and 35 and above, I'm high risk. So before you would want to get a car loan, apply for a mortgage, or whatever the case may be, this worksheet will really help you out to make you see for yourself before you go get that hard inquiry on your credit, to let you know, like, hey, before you take on a big responsibility or even take a loan out, make sure you good. Make sure you're in the great and good credit risk, because that really matters. My next page is a what's on the menu meal planner. So I use this before I start my week. I write down everything I want to eat for breakfast. Let me show you guys. Everything I want to eat for breakfast, everything I want to eat for lunch, everything I want to eat for dinner for the week. And I'll create a grocery list here, so that way I know what to get from the store, what I need, what ingredients I need to make. Very easy. And then I put like at least 4 sheets for the month. And then I have a shopping list here. So as you can see, I wrote down my budget like in my last book. I write down the budget, how much I want to spend, and I write down everything I need around the house. I'm just seeing, let me get you close up. This condiments, produce, the kitchen area, laundry, bathroom, bedroom, home, whatever the case may be. So this page is a baby step saving. So this page helps you learn how to save your money by takes baby steps. If you can learn how to save at least $10 each paycheck and set it aside to a goal, imagine how much more you can use to invest, save for a trip, treat yourself to something you really wanted, and so much more. So this is like saving at least $100 here. Okay, and the next page is the 1K challenge I created. Now there's different ways you can save $1,000. You can do $20 for 50 weeks. You can do $25 for 40 weeks. You can do $50 for 20 weeks, or you can do $100 for 10 weeks. And either way, you can save $1,000. Now the next page here is my money saving challenge. I created another one. It shows you how to save $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So for example, if you wanted to save $5,000 for the year, right? Your goal is $5,000. I want to save $5,000 by the end of the year. You can either save $209, and this is roughly rounded up to the nearest dollar. You can save $209 every 2 weeks, or $105 every week. You get, and if you do that, you'll save up to $5,000, and it goes on. And then this is your own money challenge, where you can write down however much you want to save divided by 12, right? And then you divide it by 2, how much you need to save every 2 weeks or every week, right? And so the end of my book, it's just my notes, because I always like to jot down ideas, information I need to write down so I don't forget it in my notes. So I want to create a little note section for you guys. And that is it. That is my little preview of my book that's coming out next week. I hope you guys join me along this journey. I will be doing raffles. I will be giving a few books away for free. So make sure you guys stay tuned and follow me in my journey. Right now, I'm in the midst of getting back on track. Since my dad passed away, I mean, I was doing good. To me, I was doing good. And when he passed away, I didn't realize how expensive not only a funeral can be, but in Haitian culture, when somebody passes, everybody's coming to your house. So every day we had to make sure the house is clean, the people have food to eat, drinks, da-da-da. I mean, some of our family members came and brought us drinks or whatever the case may be, but it was going on, like, with my dad, was from November 11th till, like, December. It was like almost a month. Like, people coming every single day. And mind you, think about how many people coming every single day. And it's multiple people, groups of people. Sometimes the house was packed. Before the funeral, during the funeral, after the funeral, days, weeks after. Like, it was always packed. So would need to cook and clean. And, you know, it was very costly at the time. And decorations. And it was just a lot. And I ended up maxing out my credit cards. And after that, I was in between, I was in between 2 jobs. And I had to let go of one because it became too much. I faced some health issues that I had to literally make quick decisions. And I had to go through a procedure, which I'll explain in another video. And end up using my credit cards for the time being to try to catch up on my bills. Mind you, I didn't have much to rely on my savings, because all my savings just went towards my dad's funeral. And I didn't care, because it was my dad. I want to make sure he had a beautiful homegoing and a repast. And I wanted to make sure I took care of him for the last time. Like, from the little hat that he was wearing to any, table settings, how the church was decorated, all that. I wanted to make sure he had a very, very nice home going. And I didn't care what it cost. Whatever, I just, spent on my dad, because that was the last thing I could have done for him. So, this book is in honor of my dad, because when I first became responsible of the household, it was a lot for me. And I started to become more organized with not only his appointments, but my life, my school schedule, my work schedule, the bills. It just became a lot. So I use these worksheets throughout the time to help me manage such an overwhelming life I had, and it really helped me. It really got me back on track. This book really helped me through one of the hardest times of my life, and I wanted to rebrand it and make it available for some people, because it really helped some people that did buy the book the first time. Like, the first book was like way too thick. Not a lot of people bought it, but I'm so appreciative, and I'm so appreciative of those who bought my first book. And I know this book will do numbers, because me and God created this book. And I know with me going through the journey of rebuilding my credit, rebuilding, managing my finances much better, despite, life happening, I know I can get it back. I mean, I went from 500 to 700. I know I can bring it. I know I can bring my credit back up. So, I never paid nobody to fix my credit. I did it myself. I did the work. So, for those who want to, get your credit right and learn how to manage your money and learn how to manage your goals and priorities, buy my planner. Okay, this is a monthly planner. I did create an ebook for those who like my planner and want to have a digital version, a digital planner. I will have that available for you at a much less cost. I'm planning to sell my planners for $30, and the ebook probably half of that. I'm not quite too sure. I still have to work out the logistics of how much they're going to charge me and stuff like that. So make sure you buy my book. And I'm so grateful for those who are going to join me on this journey, because we are not only going to get our finances right, we're going to get our credit right, we're going to get closer to God, we're going to achieve our goals, we're going to reach our goals together. All right, so make sure you guys stay tuned and support my planner.
I turn my passion into income, yeah, I love what I do. Taught them how to be an ass, don't let them play with you, boo. Don't gotta speak on it too much, let my work do the talking. Make it more in my sleep than I do when I clock and ain't paid them no